Marti. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm fine. Thanks.
It may not be easy to have a conversation in English, but we're going to try.
We should be fine. Not the first time.
As you know, here at Sacred Heart, we've been producing a number of talks to reflect about the COVID situation. We had one on self-care, the first one, second one, nutrition, third one, about science, vaccines, treatments, the fourth one on the economy, and we wanted to reflect today about how the pandemic is being experienced in other countries, especially developing countries. Would you introduce yourself first?
Yeah, Marti Colom. I'm a priest of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee and also a member of the community of St. Paul. And I'm released by the Archbishop to work outside the Archdiocese. And since 2015, I've been working in Bogotá. I'm the pastor now of a parish in the south end of the city of Bogotá, the capital of Colombia.
How many parishioners you may have in your parish?
About 15,000. It's 3 neighborhoods, and it's difficult because we don't have current statistics, but between 13 and 15,000. 3 different neighborhoods, each one with its own church. So we have a main church and 2 chapels that function a little bit like 3 parishes, really, but 1 single juridical parish.
How would you describe the situation with this pandemic in Colombia?
The situation here is like in so many other places, no? At the end of March, or around the 20th of March, the country entered into state of emergency. At the beginning, many of us thought that it was a good thing that they implemented the lockdown policies when the numbers were not that high. And here, obviously, the fear, and I may repeat that because that's the main thing, is that the health system is very precarious. Usually, in a normal year, the health system is not good and doesn't help people cover their needs. So here the fear is that with the pandemic, if numbers increase, like in Europe or like in the US, the situation can be really, really dramatic. So for a while, during March and April, the numbers were still pretty low. And now in the last 2 weeks, we have been experiencing a rise in the numbers. It's about 15,000 cases, confirmed cases of COVID-19 now, about 600 deaths, and about 600, 700 new cases every day these last days. Obviously, another issue here is that we don't know if the numbers that we are receiving are anywhere close to the truth, how many people have the illness and are not being tested, no? That's an issue. And even there's an issue that the tests that are being taken today, the results take about 3 weeks here. So information is an issue in terms of misinformation. We don't know a lot of the things that are happening. Probably in a place like in the US or in Europe, the information is more reliable. But that's the situation. So the country stays still in the state of emergency. And in the last 10 days, the government has tried to open some sectors of the economy. But there is a fear that then people will be on the streets a lot. And again, this rise of the cases is already happening. So the situation doesn't look especially good, really. Not to be dramatic, but it's very worrisome.
Speaking about the economy, you know that's one of the talks we had. My concern in a place like Colombia would be the number of people that may live day to day without possibility of savings or working from home like we can do here in the US. Would that be a special concern?
Absolutely. That's exactly it. In a place like my parish, no? The parish where we work, it's again 3 neighborhoods, working class people, and almost everybody there lives day by day. They are taxi drivers, construction workers, maids without contracts, a lot of people who sell stuff on the street. That's what they do for a living. So basically they have no savings. And now you're talking that these people have been almost 2 months without not being able to go out on the street and look for sustenance and make a living. So that's exactly it. I mean, in a place like Bogotá, is a city of 10 million people. In the northern side of the city, that's more well-to-do, the situation could be more similar to a place like Racine, Wisconsin. But in the south of the city where we are, again, this is the drama. So far, this is the main thing, because as I said before, the health issue per se has not exploded yet. The hospitals right now are not overwhelmed with cases, although they could be. So right now, the main problem is the economic, socio-economic. What do you do with a population that has no savings, that now have been, again, at home without being able to go out, and the needs of the families are huge. May I say a popular initiative here in Colombia has been that households that are running out of everything, basically, they hang a red piece of cloth at their window, at their door. It is quite moving and unnerving and even frightening to go around in the neighborhood of my parish and to see all these houses with the red piece of cloth hanging from their windows, no? As a signal of that they need help, that they are running out of things, that they do not have food to feed the family, no? So that's the situation here.
We're being joined now by Father Michael Wolfe, who is in the Dominican Republic, if the connection actually happens. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
So I was just beginning the dialogue with Marti, with Father Marti. Would you tell us first who you are and where you are talking from?
I am actually talking right now from Santo Domingo. We came to for the first time in over 2 months to do things like going to the bank and other things that usually I'd be doing at least once every 2 weeks. This is one of the epicenters in the country with regards to the outbreaks of COVID-19, of the coronavirus, and so we've been trying to avoid it. And it just worked out well that by being here in the capital, I have a better internet connection for this too.
Is the parish still like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the capital?
Yep, it is. It is. It is. Yes. Yep.
The first question I asked Marti was if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, why am I talking to you? And as you know, this is part of a series of talks that we are doing at Sacred Heart about the coronavirus pandemic.
I've had the pleasure of seeing one of them, and I look forward to watching the second one with that friend of yours from
Marcelo?
Yep, from the World Bank. So my name is Mike Wolfe. I am a priest of the Archdiocese in Milwaukee, and I also am a member of the community of St. Paul, as both you, Father Ricardo, and Father Marti are. I am originally from Waukesha, which is why I have this very strange accent that I hope your parishioners can understand. And I was assigned as an associate pastor to St. John Paul II on the south side of Milwaukee for the first 3 years of my priesthood. And since last June, I have been the pastor of La Sagrada Familia, the sister parish of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee in the Dominican Republic.
Parishioners of Sacred Heart know about the Sagrada Familia parish because we have built 2 chapels to 2 different years. A question, Michael, I was asking Marti the same question. What's the situation in general there in the Dominican Republic?
The Dominican Republic is, to give a little bit of context for those who are listening, the Dominican Republic is a small country. It shares the island of Hispaniola with Haiti, but the area of the Dominican itself is about 1/3 of the size of the state of Wisconsin. And it has roughly double the population of about 11 million people.
Mm-hmm.
I just share that with regards to then that puts numbers into context. Right now, there are over 12,000 confirmed cases within the country and about 450 deaths. Something that the economists and health professionals here have said will give us in the Dominican Republic a bit of a chance with regards to fighting this pandemic is that the average age is only about 29 years old. So it's a relatively young population. So the presumption is that we'll have although we may have a lot of cases, especially in the more populated areas like here in Santo Domingo, hopefully the death rate will be relatively low compared to other countries that have an older median average age.
Marti was telling us about what the government did, which was to declare a state of emergency a couple of months ago. And then now they are slowly reopening the economy. What about the Dominican Republic? What has the government done?
Similar. The government, going off of what was seen in other countries, including Europe and the United States, it was quite quick to declare a state of emergency when there started to be very few cases here in the country. Most of the cases actually came in through cruise ships. Since then, which is about I think it was the 16th of March, it's been similar to there in Wisconsin, but a bit more severe. We've had a curfew from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. No one was to be out, either on foot or in vehicle, unless there was a need for it, like going to the doctor, or if somebody had some sort of letter saying that he or she is like a security guard for a company. Just last night, the president spoke, and they're spreading a little bit more the time with the curfew. We still have a curfew here from 7 p.m. now to 5 a.m. And we're just starting to open up businesses starting on Wednesday. They've set out a 4-step plan where they say if everything goes well, it will be about 2 weeks for each step. And actually, they've broken down the different areas of different businesses that will be allowed to be open. For example, in Santo Domingo, and we need a tarp to cover the shopping that we did, and we can't get one because hardware stores won't be open until Wednesday.
Yeah. Marti, what has as a priest, what have you been doing for people in your parish?
The first thing is that I think it was the third Sunday of Lent was the last that we could celebrate with the open church. After that, the cardinal here declared in a very, very strict way, which I was happy about, that no church should remain open, and they laid out rapidly a whole list of things. No weddings, no baptisms could be celebrated, funerals without the presence of the deceased, etc., etc. We closed the parish offices, etc. So the first thing we did was, like in so many other places in the world, I guess, to try to keep in touch with our people through the media. So obviously here an issue is that not a lot of people have access to even a computer, but a lot of people do have a telephone, and especially the young people, many people have Facebook. So through the Facebook page of the parish, we have remained active in the sense that we live stream every Sunday Mass. We did the entire, of course, Holy Week, the Triduum. And since mid-March, I am posting a daily biblical message on the Facebook page of the parish. And a lot of people are grateful for that, even if they don't see it on the day, but they can go back to the page days later. And that's a way to do some of the pastoral work. In the last 2 weeks, we have been also opening the parish office one afternoon a week, which has helped a bit to be in touch with some people. Then the main thing has been the social outreach. No? As I was saying before, our neighborhood is made up of people who live on the day by day, and they naturally came to the parish. This is one of these contexts, and the Dominican Republic, I'm sure Mike would agree, is very much similar, where the church becomes the center for many things, not just the spiritual life of the people. So people have been coming naturally to us asking for aid. Since the beginning, I've been in coordination with the Archdiocese. There is a food bank, and we've been securing donations of food, purchasing food and getting donations to put together basic bags of food with some 6, 7, 8 basic products, rice, lentils, oil, and we've been distributing them to the people who come to the door constantly, and ourselves going to the houses. I was mentioning before the issue of the red cloth. and also through their network of leaders in the parish, people who know well their neighborhoods, who know the families who are in deep, in dire need. We've been incessantly since the end of March distributing food. That's been the main thing. We have a pastoral development center run by the community of St. Paul in one of our neighborhoods, and we closed all the activities there at the end of March. However, there is a sewing center there, and I've talked to some of the women who have received training there, and now they are producing masks. They are also going 3 afternoons a week, a small group, 5 of them, keeping the distancing, and they are producing masks that then I distribute to people who may not have them. But mainly it's been the issue of getting food and making sure we, in a small way, certainly, as I was saying at the beginning, we have a population of 15,000. There's no way we could give food to everyone, but certainly we are trying to reach those who are in need. No? A problem with that, if I may say another quick thing, is that distribution becomes itself an issue, because people can become violent, people can become anxious, and one day we did have an issue. We distributed, I think, 500 chicken that we got, frozen chicken, and we had almost the double of the people that could get one chicken waiting at the door. So what do you do once you have distributed 500 chicken and you have another 500 people saying, what about me? I had to call the police. We've been doing it in a very organized way. Also, keeping the social distancing is an issue in itself. So its distribution we've become better at doing that since the end of March. By now, every time that we receive a big donation, we do it in a way that we don't expect people to necessarily come to the church, but ourselves go to the neighborhoods, and it's worked very well that way. No? So that's been what we've been trying to do, certainly in a very limited way, both pastorally and in the social outreach, but that's the reality, and the reality is evolving week by week. Again, there are more cases. There's a few cases already in our neighborhoods of COVID-19, but that's what we've been doing, Ricardo.
Michael, the same question for you. What have you been doing as a priest, as a church?
So, in terms of sacramentally and spiritually, similar to Marti, actually, I like doing video editing as you too, Ricardo, and also with my setting, or our setting here in La Sagrada Familia, is a bit different than that of Marti, and that instead of being in an urban setting, that we're actually in a more rural setting. And with that, people don't always have regular access to internet. A lot of people here depend on having data from their phone, cellular data. So they have limited, or sometimes if they get close to like one of the lottery stations, which meant they're closed, but some of them still have their Wi-Fi on, they're able to connect. So for that reason, for Sunday Mass, we actually recorded and I edited it, and we have Dolores, who's a member of the community of St. Paul, who's here too, who will do some of the songs, and we can edit a nicer Mass that then people can have access to when they have internet. Other than that, for daily Masses, for Monday through Friday, I do that live on Facebook for people, and also to keep intentions going, and I invite people to share their prayers. And then I do reflections and other things too by that means as well. What we're doing socially is similar to what Marti is doing there in La Resurrección, but we have 22 communities with a total population of about 30,000 people. And again, it's spread out from one side of the parish to another. It can be an hour and 20 minutes. What we decided to do to focus with the support that we have from the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, with being the sister parish, as well as some other support we get through our group, the community of St. Paul, is to prioritize where we were already helping, namely with the elderly poor in Sabana Yegua, which is 110 elderly men and women who don't have family that can support them, that we are already helping with food every 2 months, I believe it was, and then also with the families in our nutritional centers, and then with Haitian immigrants. Regarding the elderly, that's where we try to help the most, especially because we know they're probably the most at risk. And we actually now are helping them every 2 weeks to get a similar food kit as which Marti was referring to. And then with the families from the nutritional centers, the 3 centers, which are about 160 families, we help them monthly. And then we're trying to help out the best we can and on an irregular basis with the Haitian immigrant group. And those are perhaps the ones that need the food. Everybody, or a lot of people need the food, but they don't get any help from the government because the government helps right now through direct deposits and also looking in terms of the ID number that people have in order what kind of help they qualify for. And with being undocumented immigrants, the Haitians don't qualify for any of that. The government at the beginning, when it was still figuring out how to help, was helping with direct food as well. And at that time, the Haitians did get it. I was actually very happy that a lot of local politicians, the line that the new mayor of Sabana Yegua said is that poverty doesn't have color, race, or religion. But they've stopped doing that so much as the official help of the government. And that's something I'm happy for, actually, because in the beginning of it, I actually got a call from the governor that she wanted us, the local churches, to be the ones that distributed the food. So the official help from the government, from the Dominican government, was supposed to be distributed by the local churches, the line being that we can't trust the local politicians to not make it partisan. And that happens a lot here. It was trying to do what is usually done after a big storm to get people help, like a physical storm, like a hurricane. And my concerns that I expressed to the governor was that this is not a storm that's done. We're in the middle of it. And the pretense was that we do it, but we weren't offered masks or gloves or anything, protection or training. And ultimately, I even had to say that as a parish, we couldn't participate in it because a lot of the people that normally would help with that kind of outreach are men and women who are also at risk themselves. And furthermore, without having the proper training and precautions taken, I didn't want to be the reason why COVID-19 spreads throughout the parish as well.
Marti, like a personal question for both of you, but I'm asking Marti first. Anything you have learned yourself personally?
Certainly, the situation with Colombia, the context in Colombia, is that the church there, I mean, it's a country with still 90% of the people call themselves Catholic, a lot of mass attendance, and in that sense, there is a huge dependency, if you will, of the Sunday Mass, and for people, it's absolutely important. In our neighborhood, we have a lot of masses during the weekend. I have 9 masses on a Sunday in 3 different places. They are all filled. That's totally full. That's regularly. So what we have been forced to learn is how to be church when you can have the church open. No, that's exactly the same everywhere in the world. But here, maybe the nuance is that people are very much church goers, and there has to be that has been a learning experience for us priests. I talked to a lot of priest friends who at first were a bit, I would say, disoriented, no? Saying, oh, we can't do anything. That's it. They've taken away who we are, the Sunday Mass. So I think there's been some interesting conversations with some of the priests in the area saying, no, there's a lot of things that we can do. There's plenty that we can do besides saying Mass. Somehow, if you will, I know you like that expression, Ricardo, a silver lining in this whole thing is that maybe the Colombian church has been forced to rethink herself a little bit, because again, we were, and I'm talking in the past, before the COVID-19, we were a church more than in the US, I would say, and probably more than in the area where Mike is, in the Dominican Republic. We were sacramentally centered, which is who we are, but in an exclusive way almost. Now we've been able to give talks on these biblical messages and to emphasize the home church, how people can pray at home, how we can continue to practice the faith even if we don't have the Eucharist. No, again, that's the same situation that has been experienced in Italy, in Spain, in the US, and everywhere. But here in Colombia, it's been an important learning issue. So, and I'm talking more again for priests, talking to a lot of priest friends who have done this learning, including myself, but who have had to do this learning curve, saying, okay, the churches are closed. Does that mean we have disappeared from the lives of people? How can we be a part of people's lives when the church is closed? And again, the social outreach that I think that we in the community of St. Paul have grown accustomed to, or we are very much, it's part of our DNA, if you want. A lot of the priests here in the area do not have that background, that, oh, the social outreach is part of what the church does. Well, now is what we can do.
Mhm.
So now that's exactly what it's good that we do. So in my personal life, that has been a positive aspect of this whole thing, saying to grow in a broader understanding of what the church is in a context where this didn't happen that much. You know, that would be one way to answer your question, probably. Personally, what I have learned in another level, and it echoes something that Michael said, is that in our neighborhoods we have a lot of a big presence of Venezuelan immigrants that before they are newly arrived, they don't know the area, they are Catholic for the most part, but they would not be coming to church, to Mass. Now, because of the social need and the need of food, really, we've been getting to know a lot of the circles of Venezuelans in the neighborhood, and it's been a good experience because they've gotten to know us, and we as a parish have been now more aware of their situation and of their realities. We're talking households of 10, 11, 15 people stuck in a small place, not families, not related necessarily, but they are just happening to be together because they are from the same country. They share the plea of the immigrant. So that has been some learning I've done, the reality of the immigrants from Venezuela, that we knew they were around in the city, but specifically putting a face and a name to a lot of them in our neighborhood. No?
Michael, how would you answer the same question? What have you done as a priest? What has the church done? What have you learned?
So my context is that this is my first time I've been a pastor, and this was my first Holy Week as a pastor, and I'm not
And how was
only
that?
focused on the sacrament. Yeah, it was not what I was expecting. So for those who are listening or watching, especially for a young priest, I think it's pretty typical. And you, Marti, and Ricardo have more years than I. But I hadn't really thought how much I would look forward to my first Holy Week as a pastor. I had a very wonderful pastor, Father Mike Ignashik, in St. John Paul II, that let me do a lot of hands-on things with Holy Week, and I felt like I had a really good base to then kind of, I don't know how to put it without it making about me. It's about Jesus, but really being pastor. It's a time that I imagine myself really feeling sacramentally as a shepherd. Having baptism, I had prepared men in the jail for baptisms during the first week of Easter. I was really looking forward to Holy Thursday of washing the feet, and also within the jail too. Something similar that Marti had done when he was here as pastor before the Pope did it. And I did it in front of this same iPad. It forced me to really think with regards to what it means to be pastors, priests, and even along the lines, the theological term of in persona Christi, as being a priest, in terms of being the ministers that have been ordained and sent out to really, on a hands-on way, make Jesus' ministry felt. And usually, as Marti was saying, that's done with the sacraments. I mean, that's how we understand God acting in Jesus's ministry, acting directly in our lives. But this has forced me to then really reflect on what's behind that, and that if we truly believe that the church is called to make present Jesus' ministry, to be his body, to ultimately give thought to what he meant with regards to the kingdom of God is at hand,
Mhm.
is kind of his language for speaking of his ministry. And what does that mean in a time when you have to keep distance? How do we apply that in a culture here that is for our, especially Germanic background? And I'm a hugger, but I still consider the people here in my parish to be very touchy-feely. How do we show those signs of love and tenderness, and ultimately the kingdom of God being at hand is a message of hope? How do I, as a priest, and I don't have an answer yet, I'm struggling with it, especially in my first, I haven't even been a pastor for a year, and I've already told, the first day that we closed the church, I literally stood in front of the church and told people to go away, something I never imagined doing in my pastorship, of how in that context do I strive to be in persona Christi and be a beacon of hope. I feel both blessed and also feel the weight of being in the culture here, of having a place, an office where what I have to say carries weight. And I'm learning that also as a pastor too here. How do I use that to be a minister of hope when the normal ways that I do it aren't? We've always hear a lot with the work with the Archdiocese of Milwaukee have regularly had these social outreach, different than what Marti was speaking to, of what he's experienced of the local church where he is. But how do we continue to do that work in a way where we can be physically close?
Is there anything else that either one of you would like to add?
Just what Mike was saying before, it goes without saying, but I think Mike mentioned in your last intervention a couple of times the word hope. I think that both in Racine, in the DR, in Colombia, anywhere, that's the ministry of the church right now. So I just wanted to emphasize that that's who we are and that's what we do. These are times when a lot of people feel hopeless, and people are frightened, and people are scared about the illness, about getting sick, and about the future, and a lot of perspectives and horizons are crumbling. I think hope is our name right now. I mean, what are we about? Whether we are in one place or another, is to certainly to help people preserve some hope. No, so I would say that's been our main focus. So here in the parish, to be beacons of hope, as Michael was saying.
Michael?
And within the community of St. Paul, in our statutes, we talk about trying to carry out the spirituality of being bridge builders along kind of the line of St. Paul, who went around and created all these connections with all these different communities. And Ricardo, you've done a beautiful job of connecting your parish both with Bolivia as well as here in the Dominican Republic with those two beautiful chapels. I didn't know that you could print out photos onto tiles like that. I think that we have, going along the lines of trying to find a way as a church, not just us as priests, but all of us who have the means and capacities and the strengths right now to be beacons of hope, that we have a really unique opportunity with regards to kind of being in the same boat. There in Racine, here in the Dominican Republic, in Bogotá, that it's not just also facing the disease, but also here in the Dominican Republic, economists say that we may not have people that die from the disease, we may have more that die as a result of the economic consequences, being an island that depends on tourism. So in the U.S., numbers for unemployment that we haven't seen since the Great Depression. I'm sure Spain is not doing great economically, and certainly not Colombia. we have an opportunity that I hope we take advantage of, uniting together instead of falling into the temptation of everybody trying to deal with this on their own. I think we're kind of on the edge with regards to, is everybody just deal with it? Do I take care of my own family? Do I just take care of my local community? Do we just separate and everybody does their own thing as a country, or do we try to fight this together? I think just as social distancing is a way that we can stop the spread, and that only works if everybody's participating. Likewise, as we work together to move forward in the new reality that the president here coined the term COVID-dinity. It would be COVID-dinidad, he said. As we face this new reality of COVID-dinity, I hope that we really unite more as a church and as a human race too.
I wanted to thank both of you for the time you have spent. I kind of suspect that people will be asking us how to, in addition to prayers, that obviously you have them from us, but I'm sure that some people will want to find ways to help you. So we'll reach, again, those people and yourselves like we've done so many times. I want to thank you for the time, and I miss you guys. I hope to see you.
Give you a big hug here from the distance. There you go.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thanks for everything you are doing also.
And
yes, Michael.
And hope to see you again soon.
And I hope to be such a great video producer as you one day.
I've lost that hope a long time ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless. Thanks.